Is to measure a segment. It says the distance between 2 points. So if you're measuring a segment is not a line. A line continues in both directions. That's why we put little arrows on it yesterday. A segment is a piece of a line. So if I was going to measure the distance from A to B, what would be the distance? 4. So put a little 4 here. Boop. So the distance between A and B is just 4 units. Congruent segments, if you look at the picture, and I'm sorry about these ugly lines that are going across once again, like the printer's acting crazy. From A to B was 4. From C to D, if you look, is also 4. It's just shifted on the line slightly. Congruent is a geometry term we will basically use all the time. If these two are congruent segments, what do you think congruent might mean in geometry? Yeah, the same. So it means that they're equal. So above congruent, put equal. And we have a fancy like symbol for congruency. So off to the side, kind of in the margin of your paper, you're going to put a little equal sign because congruent means equal. And it actually like we like it a little spicy in geometry, so we add a little squiggle to the top. So boop boop. So that is a congruency statement or a congruency symbol. You're always going to see these symbols kind of like pop up, and that just means that they're equal. Just because they have the little squiggle, it means congruent. So it says if AB equals CD, then the segments are congruent. And it's technically written as AB. And then we're going to use the congruency symbol, the equal sign with the squiggle, to CD. And I only shifted it up a little bit so that way it wasn't on that black line. So it literally means the same thing, that they are equal. Segment addition postulate is the next thing. When you're in geometry, we have different things called postulates and theorems, and it's kind of just like rules that we use. So if A, B, and C are collinear points and B is between A and C, then we can say something. First off, does anybody remember from yesterday what collinear means? On the same line. So A, B, and C are all on the same line. We can kind of like write an equation to represent this. So we can say AB, segment AB, plus segment BC equals something. So if I'm using letters to describe this, because there's obviously no numbers, if I said A to B plus B to C equals to something, what would it be equal to using two of these letters? To AC, meaning like the whole length. And once again, I did not put arrows at the top of these lines like we did yesterday because it's not a line that's going on forever. It's a piece of a line. So that's why they have endpoints. So we're going to use this idea to kind of make equations and actually do math today using segment addition postulate. So for the examples, for number 1 and number 2, we're going to use the same picture, which is a little annoying, but it is what it is. So it says use the diagram below for questions 1 and 2. So for question 1, it says if P to Q is 9, I'm going to put that on my picture. From P to Q is 9, and Q to R is 28. We have to find PR. So what do I do? You beautiful. You guys are geniuses. We're catching on to this. So all you have to do is add them together because segment addition postulate. You're taking a piece, you're adding it to another piece, and it's equal to the whole thing. So if you add those together, so equals 37. So same idea with different numbers. We're going to use the same picture, which is annoying, but it is what it is. So it says if Q to R is 17. So this time I'm just going to use the bottom half of my picture. So this piece is 17 this time. And P to R is 21. I need to find PQ. So this is what I'm trying to find. I'm put a little question mark there. This time we're going to subtract them because we're not going to add them. We know the whole length is 21. I know this piece is 17, so I'm basically in my head doing something plus 17 needs to make it 21. So 21 minus 17. So what's my answer? 4. Okay. So obviously that's really easy. That's not going to be what the questions are like. But using that same kind of idea, this is what your questions will look like on your tests. So for number 3, it says if EG is 71, we need to find the value of X. If you notice, 71 is not on my picture anywhere. A lot of people just jump to the picture and are like, I'm going to do math without reading the directions. You have to read. So it says EG is 71. I'm going to add that to my picture. So from E to G is 71. So using the same kind of concept that we just did, we know segment addition postulate, we're doing piece plus piece equals the whole thing. Does anybody think that they know an equation using the stuff that I could write to say that it equals to 71? Every class has figured it out. It takes a minute. Genius. So you're literally doing like we did last time, this thing AB plus BC equals the whole thing. That's what you're doing. So I'm going to take my little piece, which is 8x minus 17. And if you want, kind of write small just because like there's not a lot of space. Or if you know you write big, you can write it in like this little example spot because we're not going to use that anyways. Plus the other little piece, which is 5x minus 3. And I know the whole thing is equal to 71. So now I have a multi-step equation. So for geometry, you're not going to be really given equations to solve. You have to set it up and then solve it. It's not that the math is really hard. You're not doing quadratics or exponential functions or anything crazy like that. You just need to set it up and then be able to solve it. So I have my equal sign in the back. A lot of people during my first 2 classes were like adding this line, which is totally fine. Your equal sign should not move. It should always stay in the same spot. You probably used to do that in middle school. It just helps you be organized. Over here, you have 4 terms. So what 2 things can come together that I can combine? My x's. So 8x and 5x make 13x. If I combine my numbers, negative 17 and negative 3, not positive 20, negative 20. What's up? Yep, I need your phone. And then it reduces down to a 2-step equation, which is beautiful and gorgeous. So now I'm going to add 20 to both sides because numbers go with numbers. And then this is kind of like large and in charge, but if you divide that, what do you get? Somebody with a calculator. 7, yeah. Oop, so 7 is the answer. So try number 4. Take the information from the directions and put it in your picture. And then you're going to have to write an equation to solve. Piece plus piece equals the whole thing. Yeah. But you're not adding it to that because that's what the whole thing is equal to. Oh. So does anybody know what 2 pieces should actually be added together?
Oh, 5. 5.
What? Oh. 5 and 9.
5 and 9 equals 2.
Yes. So last time we took this piece and added it to this piece and equal the whole thing. A lot of people are like, it's equal to 5 because that's the number. No, you're doing this plus this equals the whole distance. So your equation should be something like this. Plus 5, which is the same thing as what you said, just a different order, which is fine. So you should have 9x plus 2 plus 5, and if you have it the opposite way, it's fine. But it's equal to either way to the whole distance. The whole distance is 14x minus 8. And then if you want, you can draw your little line. On the left side, there's two things that can come together. What two things on the left side can actually reduce? 2 and 5. They're both numbers, so I can bring those together. So I actually have 9x plus 7 equals 14x minus 8. So the problems are obviously not going to be identical to each other, but it's similar kind of concept. I have an x and I have a number. I have an x and a number. I can't reduce anything else. So now I can start moving around my equal sign. So you get to choose, do you want to move your 8 or do you want to move your 7? Doesn't matter. You could move your 9 first, but I'm never going to move the x's first just because most people will move the set, like the numbers first. There's 4 different ways to solve this and get the correct answer, but most people will just move a number first. So sure, let's add 8 because it's negative. So I'm going to add 8, cross it out. Numbers go with numbers. So I'm going to do 9x plus 15 equals 14x. And I feel like that's why a lot of people get confused in math classes, is because there's so many ways to solve them, and then people just get lost whenever like one person's doing it one way and then another person's like, that's not what I was doing, but you would probably got the same answer anyways. So now, because I moved the 8, I have to move a specific x. Which one do I have to move? The 9. It would not make sense to move the 14 because then everything would be on the left side. You always want something on each side. And I'm running out of space, so I'm not going to show that last step, but what would you have to do? Divide by 5, so you get 3. But that's not the answer. We're not done. Because if you read the problem, it doesn't say find x. Last time it said find the value of x. This time it says find TU. So what do you got to do? Yep. So you got to plug it back in. So TU is this part right here. And this is where a lot of people get stuff wrong on the EOC. It's like, I found X, I'm a genius, and it's correct because I get a decimal. But then you have to read the problem. It says find TU. So you just have to plug it in. So TU is 9x plus 2. So I'll do it off to the side. TU is 9x plus 2. It's called substitution. So I'm substituting in my X value. So I'm really doing 9 times 3 plus 2. 9 times 3 is 27 plus 2. TU is 29. And once we get like used to this, realistically, you could do this whole thing, this part on the calculator. So if you show your work to find X and then you just put the answer for TU because you plug it into the calculator, then that's totally fine. You don't have to show like every single step. But for this, you do need to show your work because this is like the whole process. We're going to skip number 6, so you can cross on number 6 completely. I want you to try number 5. Number 5 is the same kind of concept. Take the information in the directions, put it in your picture, and then you have to make your equation piece plus piece equals the whole thing. It says J to L 5x plus 2. You got to put that in your picture. And then you're using all of those numbers to write one big massive equation. I'm having so much fun. It's math class. Does somebody think they know the equation? And then I'll give you time to solve it. What's the equation? Tell me.
X plus 1 equals 5x plus 2.
Heck yeah. So 27 plus 3x minus 1 equals 5x plus 2. Beautiful. So first thing you should do if you want to draw your line, there's two things on the left side that can combine. So U minus 3, that's good. Minus 2, 24, that's good. So now you're gonna plug it back in. So JL is the whole like, so you're plugging your 12 into that part. So you're doing like 5 times 12 plus 2.
Those are,
Put your phone over here and then that's. So I'm going to combine steps. If you don't do it this way, it's okay. You should get the same answer. There's a zillion ways to solve it. You should get 12 for X. So if you solved it on your own way and you got 12, then that's totally fine. I'm going to combine like terms because 27 and 1 are both numbers. They're both on the left side. So I'm going to combine them. If you don't combine them and you keep them separate, it's fine. It's just going to take more steps to actually solve for X. So if I combine 27 and -1, I can get 26 because it's 27 minus 1. And then at this point, I can move numbers. I think most people are like moving the 2 over here. So I'm going to subtract 2 to both sides. So I have 3x plus 24 equals 5x. And then because I moved the 2 to the left, I have to move. Do you want me to see what you did? Because you probably just like. Sorry, you just forgot to subtract that last step because you brought down like I think a 3x instead of a 2x. So minus 3x, so you get 24 equals 2x, and then divide by 2, so you get x equals 12. And this one you do have to plug it back in. So because I'm plugging it back into JL, if you look, JL is the whole thing. The whole thing is 5x plus 2. So I'll do it off to the side. JL is 5x plus 2. So I'm really doing 5 times 12 plus 2. So what's 5 times 12 plus 2? Tell me. 60 plus 2. 62. On the back, we are skipping number 7. So once you get this, cross out number 7. Anything we skip in the notes or that I tell you to skip, you never have to go back and actually do. Just like skip it because I don't want to do a zillion example problems because that would take forever. So cross out number 7. We're going to do 2 more problems on the back and then you guys can work on your homework. So they're still copying, so I'll give them a second. No, the homework is a different paper. You can cross out 9 and 10 on that page too, actually. 9, the bottom 2. The bottom 2. The bottom 2. 10 and 11. What questions are there? 10 and 11. On the back, cross out 10 and 11 and number 7. So cross out 10 and 11. Cross out number 7. We're going to do these last 2 problems and then you guys can use the rest of the class to work on your stuff. Okay, because this is going to go by really fast. Okay, so midpoint of a segment. So the midpoint of a segment divides the segment into 2 congruent pieces. So it's going to split it and make it 2 equal parts. So in the diagram to the left, technically point B, and it kind of looks like an R, but this point B right in the middle, is the midpoint of AC, meaning it splits it right in the middle. It splits it in half, 2 equal parts. And line L. So line L is going diagonal, it's splitting it in half, and it's splitting AC in half. So last time we were given the whole length. So we did a piece plus a piece equals the whole thing. This time I'm not going to know what the whole length is, but I know the 2 pieces are congruent, I know that they're equal to each other. So it says if point Q is the midpoint of PR, meaning it's in the middle, it cuts it in half, we have to find the value of X. I do not know the whole length. So what could I do with these two little equations? Do you think if I know that they are equal to each other, they are congruent? What is an equation I can make? I'm not adding them together. You're a genius. God, you're so smart. Beautiful. So because I know that they're equal to each other, I can set them equal to each other because they're congruent, because they're the same. So literally my equation is already set up for me. I just put an equal sign between them. Anytime it says it's a midpoint, it means it's in the middle. So I can set them equal to each other. So my equation's already set up. I'm going to draw my little line. And then I'm going to move the 16 to the other side because get rid of that minus sign. So I'm going to add 16. So 7x equals 4x plus 18. And because I moved the 16 to the right, I'm going to move the x to the left using subtraction. So I'm going to minus 4x, minus 4x. So I have 3x equals 18. And then I have to divide by 3 to both sides. So you get x equals x. Do I have to plug this back in? No, because it just says find the value of x. So take a minute, try number 9. You're setting them equal to each other. The equal sign's going right smack dab in the middle. You're solving for x, and then you will have to plug it back in. But try to find x first. Last question, and then you can work on your homework for the last like 15 minutes. No, that's the last one. They're the hardest thing. Yeah, I heard the hardest thing. Um, 10 plus 2 is not 8. So it is. I'm a genius. I know how to do math. Psych. So for number 9, what do you end up getting for x? You should get 3, but that's not the answer because you got to plug it back into GH 17 because you're doing 3 times 5, which is 15, plus 2 is 17. So the actual answer to this is 17. The homework problems that you have on your piece of paper, you can skip the bottom 2 problems. You do not have to do number 7. You do not have to do number 8. So cross those bad boys out. You do not have to do these. You have 6 questions. You can work on them now. My phone will go off when there's 2 minutes left, just so you probably get some in the morning. Now, if you have questions or need help, right now. You can find your.
So you said 7 and 8?
Yeah, cross out 7 and 8. Yeah. Well, a binder is like what I required for my class, so you're not gonna have to go get the binder. I have spare binders. You need binders.
Oh.
Yeah, but you're gonna be, but you're gonna put like 180 pages. Okay. Yeah. And then that way, like for your homework, you can just take the piece of paper home and stick it in like another folder or something. You know, you need binder. Yeah, they're used, they're not new, but like, that's not this one.
Did we just do this?
They're similar, but they're not the same. You have a preference on both? Preference on both? You have a preference actually?
Equal, 3.
Oh,
There you go.
And then, yeah, there's a shelf over here, 7th period, you can just leave it.